What if the first hour after waking determines how many years you'll live? In this video, I'll reveal the 7 morning habits that longevity researchers have identified in seniors who consistently live into their 90s and beyond. Simple routines you can implement tomorrow morning. The 5th habit takes just 90 seconds, but was found by Stanford researchers to reduce mortality risk by 37%. Yet less than 4% of American seniors do it daily. At 92, Eleanor from Vermont rises each morning at 6:30 and follows a specific morning sequence she's maintained for decades. When researchers studied her morning routine alongside 240 other nonagenarians nationwide, they discovered these 7 consistent patterns that anyone can adopt, regardless of current health status. Habit 1. Morning hydration sequence. Why do researchers at the Mayo Clinic consider your first morning drink to be the most critical metabolic decision of the day? This isn't about general hydration advice that we've all heard for decades. When you sleep, your body undergoes approximately 8 hours of dehydration, causing blood to thicken and forcing your cardiovascular system to work significantly harder during the first waking hours. How you rehydrate in those initial minutes directly affects your body's metabolic rate, blood pressure response, and even cognitive function for the entire day ahead. According to hydration specialists at Johns Hopkins Longevity Research Center, consuming 16 ounces of room temperature water within 10 minutes of waking reactivates cellular metabolism by 24% and reduces mortality risk by 20% compared to those who start their day with coffee or juice. Their 7-year study tracking over 1,400 seniors found that those who consistently hydrated properly first thing in the morning showed remarkably better kidney function, more stable blood pressure patterns, and significantly reduced incidence of morning dizziness, a leading cause of falls in the elderly. The research specifically emphasized room temperature water rather than cold, as cold water requires energy expenditure to warm within the body, actually delaying the hydration benefits when speed is essential. Failure to rehydrate properly after sleep's 8-hour dehydration period forces your cardiovascular system to work harder, leading to morning blood pressure spikes and increased strain on aging organs. When blood thickens during sleep, your heart must generate more force to pump effectively upon waking. The Johns Hopkins researchers documented that seniors who delayed proper morning hydration experienced blood viscosity levels 14% higher than those who hydrated immediately, creating unnecessary strain on the heart during a time when cardiovascular events are statistically most common. This thickened morning blood state also compromises the delivery of nutrients and oxygen to the brain, explaining why many seniors experience morning mental fog or confusion that they mistakenly attribute solely to aging. Keep a glass of water on your nightstand before bed and drink it completely before your feet touch the floor in the morning. This simple habit creates the optimal conditions for your body to transition effectively from sleep to wakefulness. Thomas, an 83-year-old former teacher from Michigan, reversed his morning fatigue and dizziness within just 9 days after adopting this simple hydration sequence before his morning coffee. The improvement was so dramatic that his primary care physician documented the changes in his medical record as an example for other patients. Your next morning hydration choice will either support or undermine your longevity. Make the change immediately. Habit 2. Strategic morning sun exposure. Did you know that the timing of your first daylight exposure determines how well you'll sleep 8 hours later, directly impacting your longevity? Our bodies evolved over millions of years with the rising and setting of the sun, developing sophisticated internal clocks that regulate thousands of biological processes. Modern life has disrupted these natural patterns, but research shows that reconnecting with natural light cycles can dramatically improve health outcomes for seniors. The timing of your first light exposure each day is literally programming your body's hormonal release schedule for the next 24 hours. Researchers at the University of California's Center for Circadian Biology found that seniors who get 10 to 15 minutes of direct morning sunlight within 30 minutes of waking experience a 34% improvement in sleep quality and release up to 5 times more melatonin at night. This isn't just about feeling more rested. Proper melatonin production has been directly linked to enhanced immune function, reduced cancer risk, and improved cognitive preservation. The research specifically identified early morning sunlight as uniquely beneficial due to its specific blue light wavelengths that most effectively reset the body's master clock in the hypothalamus. Even on cloudy days, outdoor morning light contains significantly more of these beneficial wavelengths than any indoor lighting. Without morning light exposure, your circadian rhythm becomes progressively disrupted, leading to reduced cellular repair during sleep and accelerated aging at the DNA level. The California research team measured the telomeres, protective caps on DNA that reflect biological aging, of study participants and found that those with consistent circadian disruption showed telomere shortening equivalent to 4 to 7 additional years of aging compared to those with strong light-based circadian entrainment. Poor sleep quality resulting from circadian disruption also compromises the glymphatic system, which clears metabolic waste from the brain during deep sleep. Accumulation of these waste products is strongly associated with cognitive decline and various neurological conditions. Enjoy your morning beverage near a bright window or step outside for 10 minutes while the morning sun is still low on the horizon. The key is consistency and timing rather than duration. Margaret, 78, suffered from chronic insomnia until her doctor prescribed sun therapy each morning. Within 2 weeks, she was sleeping 7 hours nightly for the first time in decades. Her case has since been presented at several sleep medicine conferences as an example of non-pharmacological intervention for geriatric sleep disorders. Tomorrow morning's sun exposure will set your biological clock for the next 24 hours. Don't miss this critical window. Habit 3. Morning protein timing. Why do longevity experts at Harvard Medical School stress that when you consume protein matters more than how much you eat? Most nutrition advice focuses on total daily intake, but emerging research shows that protein distribution throughout the day dramatically impacts how effectively your body utilizes this critical nutrient. For seniors particularly, the body's ability to synthesize muscle from protein diminishes with age, making strategic timing essential for preserving strength, mobility, and independence. The morning hours represent a unique metabolic window that most seniors completely miss. Research from the National Institute on Aging demonstrates that consuming 25 to 30 grams of protein within 90 minutes of waking increases muscle preservation by 58% and significantly reduces frailty in aging adults. Their 5-year longitudinal study of adults over 70 found that those who consistently consumed adequate morning protein maintained substantially more muscle mass and functional strength, regardless of their total daily protein intake. The researchers identified that protein consumed early activates mTOR signaling pathways most effectively when cortisol levels are naturally elevated upon waking, essentially creating an anabolic window that diminishes as the day progresses. This early protein intake also stabilizes blood glucose levels, reducing insulin fluctuations that contribute to inflammation and accelerated aging. Missing this morning protein window causes accelerated muscle loss of up to 8% annually after age 70, leading to increased fall risk and decreased mobility. This staggering rate of muscle decline isn't inevitable. It's largely the result of misaligned nutrition timing combined with sedentary behavior. The Institute's research demonstrated that inadequate morning protein intake leads to negative nitrogen balance during the first half of the day, essentially creating a catabolic state where the body breaks down its own muscle tissue for amino acids needed for essential functions. This self-cannibalization process, once established as a pattern, becomes increasingly difficult to reverse and directly contributes to the frailty syndrome that often precipitates nursing home admission. Include eggs, Greek yogurt, or a protein smoothie with your morning meal, aiming for at least 25 grams of protein before 9 a.m. Focus on complete protein sources containing all essential amino acids. Richard, at 81, reversed 3 years of progressive weakness in just 6 months by restructuring his breakfast to include sufficient morning protein. Before this change, his grip strength and walking speed were declining measurably each quarter, despite an otherwise healthy lifestyle and adequate total protein intake spread throughout the day. Your muscles are breaking down right now. Start tomorrow's protein timing protocol immediately. Habit 4. Morning mental activation exercise. How can the first 5 minutes of mental activity each morning determine your cognitive longevity over the next decade? Most seniors understand the concept of use it or lose it for brain health, but few realize that when you engage, your brain matters almost as much as how you engage it. Neuroscience research has identified that the brain is uniquely receptive to forming new neural connections during the first hour after waking. This period represents a critical opportunity to establish patterns that either accelerate or slow cognitive aging. Neuroscientists at Columbia University's Aging Brain Project discovered that seniors who engage in 5 minutes of novel mental challenges immediately after their morning routine experience a 32% slower rate of cognitive decline and maintain neural plasticity similar to people 15 years younger. Their decade-long study tracked cognitive function in over 900 adults aged 65-93 and found that those who consistently performed novel mental challenges within the first hour of waking showed remarkably preserved processing speed, working memory, and executive function. The research emphasized that the type of mental activity matters significantly. Passive consumption of information, like reading news, produced minimal benefits compared to active problem-solving, pattern recognition, or learning new information that requires effort. Beginning your day with passive activities, like watching news, creates neural patterns that accelerate age-related cognitive changes and reduce formation of new neural connections. The Columbia researchers observed that seniors who began their days with passive media consumption showed EEG patterns associated with reduced neuroplasticity throughout the remainder of the day. This passive morning pattern effectively sets the brain into a consumption mode rather than an engagement mode, making it significantly harder to activate cognitive reserves later. The cumulative effect over months and years directly contributes to reduced cognitive resilience and diminished capacity to adapt to new challenges. The hallmark of an aging brain. Before touching any electronic devices each morning, spend 5 minutes solving a new type of puzzle, learning 3 words in a foreign language, or calculating something mentally. The key is novelty and active engagement rather than difficulty. Barbara, a 79-year-old retired accountant, maintained cognitive testing scores unchanged for 11 years after adopting a disciplined morning mental activation routine. Her neurologist now uses her case study when counseling newly diagnosed patients with mild cognitive changes on non-pharmacological interventions. Your brain is either building new connections or losing them each morning. Choose growth starting tomorrow. Habit 5. 90-second vertical stretching sequence. Why do Stanford longevity researchers call the first 90 seconds of vertical movement the mortality predictor that few seniors utilize? After hours of horizontal positioning during sleep, Your body requires a specific transition to vertical alignment that most of us completely ignore. How you make this transition impacts far more than momentary comfort. It establishes movement patterns and spinal compression factors that gradually accumulate over decades, directly affecting organ function, breathing capacity, and even cognitive health through cerebral blood flow optimization. A landmark study from Stanford's Center on Longevity found that seniors who perform 90 seconds of overhead stretching and gentle spinal elongation immediately after getting out of bed experience 37% lower mortality rates over a 12-year period. Their research tracked spinal compression, pulmonary function, and mobility metrics in over 1,200 adults aged 65 to 94, and discovered that this brief morning protocol had profound effects on multiple systems. The vertical stretching sequence triggers specific mechanoreceptors in the spine that activate parasympathetic nervous system functions, effectively resetting posture, improving lymphatic flow, and establishing healthier movement patterns for the entire day. The researchers were particularly surprised by how this simple intervention improved cardiovascular metrics, with participants showing significantly better blood pressure regulation throughout the day. Without early vertical stretching, the spine compresses an additional 7% daily, accelerating height loss, impaired breathing capacity, and reduced organ function. Most people lose up to half an inch of height daily due to spinal fluid compression, but typically regain it during sleep. However, as we age, this recovery becomes less complete each cycle, leading to permanent compression that affects everything from digestive function to pulmonary capacity. The Stanford team documented that seniors who skipped morning vertical decompression experienced measurably reduced vital capacity in their lungs and decreased intra-abdominal space for organ function. This compression also impairs cerebrospinal fluid circulation, which emerging research links to cognitive health and neurological function. Immediately after standing each morning, reach toward the ceiling with alternating arms for 30 seconds, then gently stretch your spine in all 4 directions for 60 seconds total. Focus on creating length through your entire spine, rather than achieving any particular range of motion. James recovered 3 to 4 inches of lost height and eliminated his chronic morning back pain after adopting this 90-second protocol for just 60 days. His physical therapist was so impressed with the results that they began recommending the practice to all patients over 60, regardless of their presenting condition. Your spine is compressing more permanently with each passing day. Implement this vertical stretching sequence tomorrow morning. Habit 6. Strategic morning fluid timing. Did you know that your morning beverage schedule directly impacts how your heart will function for the entire day? Most health advice focuses on what to drink, but cardiovascular specialists are now finding that when and how you space your morning fluids may be equally important. Your cardiovascular system faces unique challenges during the morning transition from sleep to wakefulness, with most heart attacks and strokes occurring between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. How you manage fluid intake during this vulnerable window can literally be life-saving. Cardiologists at the Cleveland Clinic Longevity Center discovered that spacing morning fluids in a specific pattern reduces cardiac workload by 17% and significantly improves blood pressure stability throughout the day. Their research monitored cardiac output, blood pressure variability, and endothelial function in seniors with various hydration patterns, and found that those who spaced their morning fluids in measured intervals showed remarkably more stable cardiovascular metrics than those who consumed the same total volume in a clustered or random pattern. The spacing allows for more gradual blood volume expansion, reducing the stress on aging vessels and heart tissue during the already challenging morning transition period when catecholamine levels naturally surge. Random or clustered fluid consumption creates unnecessary blood pressure fluctuations, placing cumulative stress on aging cardiovascular systems. The Cleveland Clinic research team documented that seniors who consumed large volumes of fluid at once, such as quickly drinking a full mug of coffee upon waking, experienced blood pressure spikes averaging 15 points higher than those who spaced their consumption. These temporary spikes may seem insignificant, but the cumulative effect on arterial walls contributes to reduced vascular elasticity over time. The research also found that random fluid timing leads to more frequent episodes of orthostatic hypertension, sudden blood pressure drops when standing, which directly increases fall risk and associated complications. Divide your morning fluids into 3 8-ounce servings spaced 45 minutes apart, beginning with room temperature water and progressing to warmer beverages. The temperature progression matters. Cold liquids trigger vagal responses that can exacerbate morning blood pressure variability. Dorothy, at 84, reduced her blood pressure medications by half after her cardiologist suggested this strategic morning fluid timing approach. Within just 6 weeks, her morning blood pressure readings stabilized so significantly that her doctor documented the case for presentation at a geriatric medicine conference. Your cardiovascular system is being stressed unnecessarily right now. Implement this fluid timing protocol tomorrow morning. Habit 7. Morning Gratitude Physiology Practice. How can 60 seconds of directed morning emotion physically restructure your heart and brain to extend your life? While gratitude practices have become popular in wellness circles, most people remain unaware of the profound physiological impacts these brief emotional exercises create, particularly for seniors. The morning transition from sleep to wakefulness represents a critical window when emotional state directly programs biological processes for the hours ahead. Emerging research shows that this brief window offers an unparalleled opportunity to establish beneficial hormonal patterns that directly influence cellular aging and systemic inflammation. Research from the Yale Department of Psychology and Neuroscience found that seniors who practice 60 seconds of active gratitude reflection before rising experience measurable improvements in heart rate variability and inflammatory markers, predicting an average 7-year increase in healthy lifespan. Their 8-year study monitored telomere length, inflammatory cytokines, and heart rate variability patterns in adults over 65, documenting that those who consistently practiced directed gratitude immediately upon waking showed remarkably better physiological markers across multiple systems. The researchers identified that this brief morning practice triggers the release of oxytocin and reduces cortisol, creating an optimal neurohormonal environment that influences gene expression throughout the day. The timing proved critical. The same practice performed later showed significantly reduced benefits. Beginning your day without emotional regulation allows stress hormones to dominate your physiological state, accelerating cellular aging and tissue inflammation. The Yale researchers documented that seniors who began their days in a neutral or negative emotional state showed significantly elevated inflammatory markers by mid-morning, with cascading effects that persisted throughout the day. Starting the day with unregulated cortisol levels programs the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis toward a pro-inflammatory state that accelerates virtually all aging processes. This elevated inflammation directly impacts cardiovascular health, cognitive function, and immune response, essentially compressing both lifespan and health span through mechanisms that begin within moments of waking. Before rising each morning, mentally identify 3 specific things you're grateful for, focusing on feeling the emotion of gratitude for at least 60 seconds total. The key is generating the authentic emotion rather than merely listing items intellectually. William, a typically stoic 77-year-old veteran, lowered his inflammatory markers by 31% after reluctantly adopting this brief morning gratitude protocol for 90 days. His doctor was so impressed with the results that the practice is now recommended to all patients in the cardiology practice where William receives care. Your cellular aging rate is being determined by your emotional state each morning. Implement this practice immediately. These 7 morning habits require less than 20 minutes total, yet have been scientifically proven to add quality years to your life. Thousands of seniors have already transformed their health trajectory by implementing even just 3 of these practices consistently. The power lies not in their complexity, but in their strategic timing, leveraging the body's natural rhythms and transition points when small interventions yield disproportionate results. Which of these 7 morning habits are you already doing, and which will you start tomorrow? Share in the comments below to inspire others on their longevity journey. Hit that like button and subscribe for more science-backed strategies to extend not just your lifespan, but your health span, the years you can live independently and vigorously.